If we aspire to loving God, we have to begin by loving humanity. And we require partners, friends on the path who can show us both the shortcomings of our ego as well as the beauty that we cannot see in ourselves. This is a constant message in the context of the Quran, the New Testament, and the Hebrew Bible, that if you want to find out how a people are faring with Allah, you begin by taking a look at the way that the most vulnerable people in their community are faring at the moment. And we amplify their voice. My name is Omid Safi, and I serve as the director of the Duke University Islamic Studies Center. It is a great honor to be here in London at St. Ethelburga, which, as I understand, has had a long history of serving as a center for reconciliation. This evening, I have the great privilege of speaking on the issues of the Islamic traditions of love and justice, and what they have to offer us for those of us who care about a model of activism that is spiritually informed and relevant to the era in which we find ourselves. I think I'm going to be making a few very simple points that, as I'll demonstrate, come out of the heart of the Islamic tradition, the Sufi tradition in particular. One, that within the legacy of Islamic spirituality, there is an emphasis on the notion that the love of the divine love, ishq, flows through humanity. So if we aspire to loving God, we have to begin by loving humanity. That's one. The second point is one that comes out of so much of the emphasis within this tradition, is that the spiritual path, the path to God, is one that is both individual and communal. There are aspects of this work which one has to do on one's own heart. There is the purification of the self, there is the task of remembrance of the divine, and the working on the ego that each person is responsible for. At the same time, this task is a social one, it's a communal one, because we require mirrors in life. All of us are, in some capacity, veiled from our own ultimate beauty, and we require partners, friends on the path who can show us both the shortcomings of our ego as well as the beauty that we cannot see in ourselves. And then the third one is, this is a constant message in the context of the Quran, the New Testament, and the Hebrew Bible, that if you want to find out how a people are faring with Allah, you begin by taking a look at the way that the most vulnerable people in their community are faring at the moment. So that's why when you read the Injil, the Torah, and the Quran, time and time again we hear this message of the orphans, the widow, the poor, the needy, the travelers. So you begin by assessing the spiritual faith of a community, not by how much wealth they generate, not by looking at the way that the rich and mighty and powerful, the pharaohs of the world, are faring, but rather in the Quranic language, in the biblical language, as Christ says in the Bible, that which you do to the least of these, Matthew 25, you do unto me. Right? So we begin by taking a look at the people in our community and in our world who at the moment find themselves weak and vulnerable. And we amplify their voice. We don't usurp their voice. We don't substitute ourselves for their voice. We amplify their voices, whether that is Syrian refugees, Palestinians living under occupation, the poor and the homeless in our society, people who are racially, sexually, religiously, economically discriminated against. And we tend to them as a means of both service, but also as a part of recognizing that our own humanity is bound up in theirs. that there is in fact one humanity that we all participate in. That most simple but necessary point of all that we mean by justice and by social justice is simply love when it moves into the public spaces.